to take our government down and build it back up again. Um, I'm trying to plan this motorbike ride, and I still got to get a map. I get so busy, but there's so many things. But
Yeah.
I really think that the motorbike ride back east is going to get a lot of attention. But I'm going to have
I
to advertise and advertise and advertise.
think we're about ready to go live. Yep, we should be live now. But hey, it's Sue Greenwald here with Awaken Stories. I'm here today with John F. Kennedy Jr. Hey, John, how are you?
Hi, Sue. Oh, I'm great. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good day anytime I get a chat with you on the internet and share the truth.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well, today is April 16th, and what we're going to do is probably talk about once a week, just stories, Q&A, that kind of stuff to get John's story out there. So if you can share the videos, if you could purchase this book, Stolen Identity, this is an amazing book. This was a great accomplishment because it tells everything John went through. Not everything, but you know what I mean? It gives us a good overview. It shows us how corrupt the government, the politicians, the movie stars, all of that are. And what's going on is shocking. So for those that haven't seen our previous videos, I'd recommend that you go, watch them because they tell the basic story. But if you can read the book, that's also helpful. So when John was younger, he was basically put into a kind of a witness protection program, and it was a very corrupt, organized crime household. He was taken all over, witness to murder, all sorts of, trafficking, kidnapping, all sorts of crime, which is really prevalent. And we're seeing that come in the news today. We're seeing the crime come out slowly, but it's still coming out. So that's good. And we want to get this story out there for people. So let's see. It doesn't look like we're recording, actually. It says we're recording, but I don't believe it. We've had trouble because they don't want this story getting out there. Yeah. I'm going to go back on. So for those that are watching, just hang on one second. Oh, okay. We are recording. I don't trust them because they've taken some of our lives down a few times. Well, it shows us the recording button and then we lose the video totally. So anyways, how are you, John? We were just talking
I am.
about your bike ride east. So that's not been planned yet. The dates haven't been planned.
It's being planned in my mind.
Yeah.
I keep saying I need to go get a map. I haven't been anywhere to get a map yet. I'm kind of out in seclusion.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, what you were saying about my book here,
Yeah.
it's just a fraction. There was a lot we didn't put in here because we were afraid of being sued. And it's a wake up. This book is a wake up because
Yeah.
I've got so many stories of
Yeah.
so many gruesome things and so many things that are done by our government. Calaveras County murders and things like that. It's huge what our government agents do to
Yeah.
it's some things are even unspeakable. I get shivers when I think about what I had to go through in Calaveras County and being locked in a cell, underground pit, and in the adjoining room hearing children scream and people taking their lives so they can be a made member. And there's two different versions of being a made man in the mafia and what our government's doing. But to be made in one instance is you murder someone, like the John that replaced me had to commit murder as a child, and he got a ring for it. That made him a made man. The other version of being a made man is like what they did to me. They taught me, they molded me, and they trained me in so many circumstances to build me up with knowledge of how it all works. But when I think of Calaveras County and what actually was going on to make these people into organized crime, it's so huge. And We need to expose what I had to go through. We really do. There's a lot in the book to wake people up, but I'm asking everybody to use me and my story as an example. Our government is full of organized crime. That's why we have a problem. People all know that our government, and they see it in everyday life. We have a big problem. Well, we cannot fix it with our vote. Our vote is rigged. We can't change things the way the system is put in place. The system is put in place right now for organized crime to control us, all the way from the Supreme Court. And I'm not just saying this, I'm a personal eyewitness of justices being strong armed, murdered, and asked to resign. So our Supreme Court, it's all our government. They've had 60 years to put all these people in place to run it. The American government is the big prize for organized crime. You run our government, you run everything, and that's what's going on. They are running everything. So if people use me, my story, what they did to President's son, and we get it out, the word out, and they don't want the word out. My Lions on TikTok share simple videos, not harmful for anyone, just truth. They are getting taken down. There was a lady that read the first chapter in my book. Just some sweet old lady reading my book, making a video to share my story, and it was taken down within an hour. They don't want you to know what's in here. They don't want the people to know what I know. I go to our FBI, and they don't want to talk to me because I'm exposing them for crimes, what they did. And when I went to the FBI back in the 80s, the first time, I was shivering because these people had murdered my family members, killed my family members. So for me just to walk in the door of the FBI, it took some balls on my part. But when they told me just go away, for me exposing child trafficking, kidnapping, and murder, um, it's huge. It is huge. Um, but people need to know the truth. Our government is taking over. It's not going to get any better. So use me and God, and let's take our country back. But we have to do it by the numbers. We really do, and sharing the truth. But if you want to change this country for the better, use me as an example. Follow me, share my story. Let's get it world. But they don't want us. They hinder us over and over. I was taken off my live video on TikTok. I'm shadow banned on Facebook. I just started a YouTube channel, so if you could join me on YouTube, it's you got to put the little @ symbol in there, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr., all spelled out, and it might come up. People can't find me still. I'm being hindered on there. But as many platforms I can share my story, I'm trying, but they don't want my story out. This is big business. Billionaires, people in our government, our news media. And a good way to describe it is I say we're a regime now. No better than a regime country where the leaders run the people and basically use us as slaves. We all have a national debt on our head. Children born in this country, like I was saying, it's almost close to $75,000 at birth that we owe the government, and that's slavery right there. When you're born into a debt, that's slavery. No doubt about it. We can fix that. But the murder crime ring, the people that are actually committing these crimes to make their billions of dollars, are in power. And that's why we are being hindered. And that's why when you wake up and go to the grocery store, you can't afford your groceries, or if you miss your check, you're worried about getting kicked out on the street, and all the other problems involved in everyday life for Americans is because our country is a crime ring. And the only way to fix it for us is to get rid of the crime ring and start over. That's the only way that I think of that we can get. I'm open to suggestions on how and why, but in my heart, that's why there's so much trouble in this country, because we have criminals running it. But yeah.
And we're seeing it's amped up since the 60s. We're seeing the crime out in our government. Look at this. if you believe Joe Biden is actually the president, we have a known pedophile running our country. What? How can that even be? How can that
And
be?
that is so
And
true.
they all, yeah, and they all have been. They're all doing things for their own personal gain. They don't care about the population or humanity. And the stories need to come out. That you need to get the old and the
But
useless out before you get the
yeah,
positive in.
it's all that way. All the former past presidents, and I don't just say this lightly. I knew Hillary Clinton. I knew Bill Clinton. I took pictures of Bill Clinton with my mother, and I made a comment on TikTok about how Bill Clinton grabbed my mother's crotch. It wasn't my mother; it was my stepmother, my fake mother, the one that stole my mother's identity. But I made that comment, and my video was banned. It's truthful, but it's so huge, the crime ring, that all the past presidents, and then you got Donald Trump, wonderful actor, a wonderful Hollywood actor, and it doesn't matter who they are. Um, it really doesn't. Donald Trump was my cousin, just so everybody knows, but Donald Trump was murdered. Donald Trump was replaced, just like my mother was murdered and replaced, just like my sister was murdered and replaced. And they thought they had murdered me, but they replaced me. So government agents put me in so called witness protection while John, the whole world knew, took my identity. So organized crime could steal the billions of dollars through that family of identity theft. They replaced me, they replaced my mom, and they replaced my sister. It only took three replacements, and they made billions of dollars. And then they replaced Donald Trump, and then they made more billions of dollars. We're talking billions. I can't fathom billions because I've never even had millions. I've never even had hundreds of thousands. I've lived in poverty, and things have gotten a little better since my book came out, and I actually got my disability, but I was amazed. Even with disability, back when I was a truck driver and I was making good money, well, for being on the road, not having a home to live in for 25 years, but they would send me letters. This was a disability office. If you were to become sick and ill and can't work, you'll get $1,400 a month. They were sending me this shit in the mail. Our government was. So then I finally got my disability 2 months ago. They sent me a back payment. I was expecting 13 years of back payment. That's when they tore me up in the hospital and killed me in the hospital, and really messed me up bad. But yeah, so they lied. They weren't sending my lawyers information. It's all corrupt anyway. So I got enough back payments. When I got my back settlement, I had $7,000, and I went and bought me a nice Harley Davidson, my dream come true. And then they send me a monthly check of $600 for the month. And I'm like, what? And they're like, well, yeah, you were on food stamps and we sent you almost $300 in food stamps. So that makes your $900. So I got another letter in the mail that said, yeah, on the first of this month, you'll get your $900, but we're canceling your food stamps. So yeah, it's all bullcrap. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm disabled and I'm having to live on $900 a month. But every day I wake up, if I have a dollar in my pocket, I say I'm going to turn that dollar into 1 million and get my story out to the world. But it's all good. It's a lot better than it was a year ago when I was dying. And yeah, so much better, so much better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, everyone has commented on how good you look from your first interview through now. It's like your health is returning slowly. It looks, you've got the Smarty products or the Holotech products there. And I think that along with hopefully a feeling of support that people are with you, I hope that that makes you feel more secure and, safe, like as much as you can.
Oh, I'm
I mean,
feeling much better.
yeah.
I still got many issues. I shouldn't even admit that because Smarty says positive thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am feeling a lot better. If people go to my TikTok and look at my video, I got a video that's got over 500,000 views, and I'm in a red and white shirt, and I'm sharing the story about where my brother was killed. My stepbrother was killed on an aircraft, and I grabbed him in my arms. But I'm sharing that and the lies that are being told. You know, these billionaires and these people in power, they only tell you what they want you to know. But in that video, you can see how sick I was.
Yeah.
I was on my deathbed trying to get my story out to the world. I gave up once when I started. I think it's been about 8 years. I tried and tried and tried and realized I was shadow banned and blocked. I would do a live and get one or two viewers over and over again. And I imagine those two viewers were members to Donald Trump's party or our CIA, but they weren't getting it, my story out. Every time I'd make a story, you'd hear something on the news about the Q movement or some other crazy things.
Yeah, yeah.
But I gave up. I threw my cell phone in the trash for a year or so. Um, when
Yeah.
I was going through all this and all the, I call it training, um, I wanted to give up for good. I didn't like people. I hated people. Everybody I was around was dying or murdering somebody. It was really crazy. But, I wanted to find a cave up on the side of a mountain and just disappear. I really did. Um, I didn't like being John Kennedy or, knowing in my heart I was John Kennedy because there was so many attempts on my life. People were trying to kill me at every angle or screw me. And I had to walk away so many times from everything just to stay alive. But yeah, I really wanted to be a caveman. But when it comes down to it, um, 8 years ago when I thought I was going to die, I didn't care if they killed me or not. I needed to get this out, and I'm doing it now. I'm getting this story out to Americans. I'm risking my life. I'm risking the life of the people around me to get this out. I know how they operate, and there's some good guys still. There really is some good guys, but we need to get it out, and I think that's how we can do it and bring this crime ring down is to share, 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 share. So this time my cell phone ain't going in the trash. I'm gonna give it all I got. And there's a saying, um, don't um, don't fix things for me, but fix things because of me. And I hope everybody, if
Ooh.
anything ever happened to me, I hope people remember that and share, share, and let's make this country a better place for your children and your loved ones in the future.
Only good things are going to happen from this point forward. You're going to have a life that you can't even imagine right now. But for the viewer, just that have or haven't read the book, just think a little boy going through trauma. No one has his back. He's been betrayed, harmed, like every possible thing has happened. And he's had a lifetime of that, a lifetime of betrayal and all this negative. It does that affects your health as well as the physical operations that you underwent. You know what I mean? So that you're still here is a miracle, and you're here for a reason, and that is to share the story. That's your mission right now. You know so many people that the average person can't even fathom. But again, for the viewer, think of it this way: the middle class people, to me, a celebrity here or there is a big deal, but he was a president's son. All right. He met everyone. He knew people in Hollywood, politicians. So you had a very unusual life to start with. And like I said before, think of if you had been properly allowed to learn, to explore, and to have your own life rather than a controlled life. Think of the potential you might have had. But instead, you were basically in survival mode your whole life, you know? And it's really sad. And
Yeah.
the story needs to get out. It needs to be shared. People need to realize that this is not a unique story. Sorry, it's not unique. It's happening to more and more and more people. They're coming out, I should say. It has happened. So it's very interesting that it's all seeming to come out at this point in history, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I have learned so much how things work. at the higher levels in our government and our um, agencies. You know, I don't like to brag, but I know probably more than most how things are operating, and people just
Yeah.
they don't know the extent of it. You know, the average American don't really get what really goes on because
Right.
it's basically organized crime rings, and they have their wars. They try to kill people, and they kill people. Um, it's organized crime at the highest level, and they're not afraid
Right.
to kill children. They're not afraid to take someone's life to steal their money and their power. They use everybody that you know. They use all these Hollywood actors that are making millions of dollars. They use these people in the music industry that are making millions of dollars. And there's so many stories I haven't shared. Some I'm not sure if I should share them. I was just thinking about another book because this book here is it's just a wake up call. Um, but I have so many stories in my head. One gal the other day said you're like a computer of knowledge, but God has kept me alive. What I've been through, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, some I don't understand. I don't have the answers for so many things, but they used me and they used my power from being, and they've used MK Ultra. I can't stress it enough. MK Ultra is so real. It's a weapon, and they can program somebody years in advance. It's people programming is what it is to get them to do crimes and other things that they would normally do, while these people that are programming these people sit back and profit off of it. But it's a huge weapon, and
Right.
so huge. We were talking about plane crashes um, the last time. I have been in so many plane crashes and helicopter crashes. My body is so. I was laying in bed last night, and Robin was like, "You got a scar here, and you got a scar here, and you got a scar here," and she pointed out like I don't know, 15 scars just from my chest to my stomach, where I've been cut open and had staples stapled me together, and but yeah, my mind thinks I'm more healthy than my body is, but I
Yeah.
was. I'm going to share this story, and
Okay.
I have not shared this story with anyone else. This is a new story. This is a new plane crash, and I'm going to try to explain it for the people that can wake up a little and think why it was done. Harrison Ford's plane crash. This was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Harrison Ford had a trainer military plane, and they were trying to kill Harrison Ford. They were planning his plane crash. They wanted to kill Harrison Ford in his plane crash. So under MK Ultra, they brought me to the airport, and it was a trainer plane. There's a back seat and a front seat. You know, it's just a two-seater trainer plane, but it's got two steering wheels in that plane. But they were trying to kill Harrison Ford, and I don't know what the actual media said was the cause of the crash. I think they said it was a carburetor. But what these people did, by what I heard and understand, is they put a clogged fuel filter in the plane. It was already clogged. So it had enough fuel to take off. And if you've ever had a clogged fuel filter in your car, you can drive and you hit 60 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden, nothing. And you're
Right.
going 5 miles an hour and it dies. So you turn your key on, you let the clogged fuel filter run for a little bit, and you can go down the road another half a mile, and then it clogs and you got to pull over again. That's what a clogged air fuel filter does. So they purposely put a clogged fuel filter on Harrison Ford's airplane, but they knew about it. That Harrison Ford knew about it. The Secret Service knew they were trying to kill their moneymaker, Harrison Ford. So Harrison Ford isn't high enough up the ladder to do anything. So what they did was they got me because if there's an attempt on my life, that's a license to kill. So what they did was they put me in the front seat of that aircraft. He took off, and the motor started spittering and sputtering. And basically, when we got to the golf course where the plane crashed, he said, "Take over, kid." He always called me kid. He's a little over, but Harrison Ford has always called me kid. And I basically took over and I pulled the controls up to miss the trees. So when we came back down, it was a hard landing. And I think Harrison Ford said, "You stupid ass," because we hit awful hard. But I had to lift up to miss the trees to make the landing. And when we made the landing, we actually, dug some trenches in that golf course. But I had a headset on. And the minute we hit, I jumped out of the trainer seat onto the wing, and they were actually telling me to run towards the car. I got in the car and we left. I was never there. But the organized crime members that set up that hit tried to have me murdered. It was an attempt on my life. So then we could go after them and eliminate them for trying to kill me. And that's a scenario on how that works. If there's an attempt on my life, just like when I was young, sitting in the back seat of a car, we could not do anything. But the minute that person grabbed that weapon and started pointing it at me, he was dead. So the good guys have to sit back and wait for these people to try to kill you before you can react. Um, it's huge involved. I think that's why they did what they did with me with Harrison Ford. I really do. But I've never shared that story with anyone um, ever except Robin the other day. Um, I think I mentioned it, on your show, Harrison Ford's plane crash, but that was the real story. And what the news media puts out is totally different than what is reality. So I hope I didn't get Harrison Ford in trouble. I've always liked Harrison Ford. I hope but I'm putting it out there and maybe it'll be in my next book. And that's just one of many stories in my head. But I'm glad to share it with you on your show.
So everyone knew that they were going to kill him, but they put you in the plane so that they could retaliate.
Exactly. Because
Okay.
once I was in the plane, they put an attempt not only on Harrison Ford's life, which they could have killed him and got away with it, but with
Right.
me in the front seat was attempt on my life, and I was so high up the ladder they could retaliate.
Wow. So why do you think they were trying to kill him? I
Money,
mean, what's that?
money.
Money.
Star Wars, remember Star Wars?
I do. Do you think they were going to put a double on
Billions,
him?
billions, and billions of dollars just in Star
Okay.
Wars.
Okay. Wow. See, I can't even fathom that, but you've lived your whole life this way. Wow.
I'm
So,
glad we made it out, and I'm sorry I really wrecked his plane pretty good, but he lived through it. I lived through it, and hopefully, those people that tried to kill him got justice.
wow. Wow. Fabulous story. So the plane went down with a cloud fuel filter. Just like you were talking about Leonard Skinner a couple videos ago. I was really shocked when I heard you were in that plane. And the fact that they had no fuel, okay, that's the first thing they would check when they're getting ready to take off. So we know that there's foul play there.
Yeah, right. And then the
Yeah.
black box and the government agents right on the scene. I mean, they were right freaking
Yeah.
there,
Yeah. Yeah.
taking me away from the scene and letting the officials know I was never there. So
Wow.
what was the real story behind that? I don't know. My life at the time of Leonard Skinner was a wreck. Um, my family was all murdered. There was a price on my head. They wanted me dead. They didn't want me ever to this day be talking and talking with you or telling my story or putting a book out. They
Right.
didn't want it. They don't want my story out. So was it an attempt to try to kill me? Um, it is really, really hard to say.
Wow, that is a fabulous story. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but you made it through yet again. And so you are the only one I've ever talked to that has been in 5 plane crashes.
Probably more. I know when I was in that helicopter crash and broke my back, um, Yeah. I'm glad some of them didn't crash. But yeah, even that little one in you say five, I'm just trying to even fathom that. But Leonard Skinner, when I see that sheet metal right going through the seat right in front of me, I get chills and shivers because if that would have happened in my seat, I wouldn't be here today. I would have been sliced in half.
Right, right.
Um, I don't know if they keep putting me on these planes to crash. I don't know what the answers are. I really don't. Um, they somehow keep keeping me alive though. Somehow.
Wow. Well, I think it's really going to be to bring your story out. I really think that's the reason. Like you've met people, you know people, you've been through all these stories, the ones we haven't even heard about yet. And of course they don't want those stories out there. That just shows what they've been doing, you know. But again,
Yeah.
all of us sharing these stories, reading the book, sharing the book, it's only going to help bring it to the light, right? You have to expose the darkness for the light to take over, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot that I don't understand on the games they play and how they keep all these people in check and how they spend their money.
Yeah.
You know, or these organized crime members have billions of dollars in other people's names and tell them how to spend their money or they die, basically. But there's a lot I don't understand. They have a game called the Ring Game, and I've never really figured it out. But it's almost like the Masons. You have 33 rings, you get to the 33rd ring. But organized crime has the same ring game. Like John, when he committed murder, and I was sharing my story at the amusement park, he was showing me his ring. And I was telling him about a ring I got from the Queen of England.
Right.
He got his ring for committing, murder to be an organized crime member for the rest of his life. And I got my ring from the Queen of England trying to make peace with the IRA and stop the bombings and the killings and everything else. But there's a game to it, and it's called the Ring Game. And if you become a member of organized crime, like a big Hollywood movie star, you get a ring. And if you're part of the music industry, you get a ring. And they build you up um, to make millions and millions of dollars. But you actually get a ring. Whether you have committed a murder or someone has committed a murder for you, a lot of people don't have the guts of what it takes to commit a murder. So they still have to be there when somebody else commits that murder for them. So they're totally involved either way, but it's all controlled. And I've never really understood the ring game, but when I was a kid, there was a little red ring that was my mother's, Jackie Kennedy's, and there was a whole bunch of dead bodies, and that ring was thrown in those dead bodies. And I was told to go find my mom's ring. So I was basically crawling all over these dead bodies, searching in the stink and everything else to try to find this little red ring. But that was done many times. I don't know if it was training, part of the training, but it was a way to get me to go climb on these dead bodies and not fear death and a wake up call. But I was only a child when that was done. But there's many things that are done by these people in organized crime to children, and they get them young. They get these children young. That's a huge deal with the child trafficking and kidnapping. These children disappearing because they get the children to teach them how they work and mold them and make them into what they are and use them for their killings. And they sit back and
Right.
watch it happen, and they're basically untouchable. But it's huge, and I'm not just saying this. This is personal eyewitness of John Kennedy Jr. learning what's really going on, and I'm exposing that, and we need to fix that. We really, really do, because these people are running the country, and they're having others do their dirty deeds for them. And you know, I beg people to share my story. I really do. I seen a video last week of my father saying, "I need your help as an American. I need your help." And you could see the emotion on my father's face. He knew how bad things were, and he was screaming, "I need your help as Americans." And I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm being hindered left and right, and everybody is that's sharing my truth. And but we have to. We can't give up. We got to get it out. We really have to get it out for the future of America.
I have to think that as a child, seeing people be murdered, hearing the screams of the children dying as you described. I know there was a scene in your book, and I when I read your book the first time, I cried all night after reading it. And
Um,
behold,
One thing I'll share too, as a child in this organized crime, if one of your own family members turns against you, you burn their body. Not only do you kill them, but they would build a bonfire, and that body would be thrown on the fire, and their body burned and incinerated on that bonfire. But that was because they were a family member. I don't understand why that's done, but you would get a whole group of people circling this bonfire, and that body would be thrown on there. And I was like, why is this being done? And they were like, because that was a family member that betrayed the family. I don't know the satanic ritual part of it. I'm just sharing what my knowledge of it. So I don't know the whole thing of, maybe the soul gets burned up and won't come back. I have no idea, but it is done. And I've seen that done a couple times in the past, but I don't know why.
so we see many celebrities where where a family member is killed in an accident or whatever, and most of those are sacrifices. All right, so we're told that that is the story, that they were, murdered by a stranger, that they were hit by a car, whatever it might be. Those are false stories. Okay, so those are
Yeah,
either ritual sacrifice or whatever it is.
there was a
Yeah.
gal that died. I am so bad with names. I've been tortured not to remember names because remember, I'm not supposed to share my story. So they actually tortured me not to remember names, but I can tell a story and everybody can figure out who it was. This was about a year ago. This one actress drove into somebody's garage, crashed her car, and burned to death. She was a famous actress. I think it was about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. She was actually on a movie where they were stranded on an island. But I met her and knew her, and right away I could see that it was a hit. It was, they said she crashed in the garage. They couldn't get her out. She burned to death.
Oh,
She was on cocaine. She was on drugs. But I could guarantee you that was a 100% mob hit to eliminate her for some reason. Maybe she started talking about all the illegal activities. I really don't know, but I always liked her. I met her a couple times on a movie set. I was on many movie sets. Um, there was the I think it was called the Castaway with Tom Hanks, where he was stranded on an island also. And they made me stack rocks on that island um, till my hands were bloody. I was actually on the movie set working, stacking rocks, but my hands were bloody. And I can say right now, Tom Hanks, I believe, has that ball. Wilson, you remember the movie? Wilson
yeah, yeah,
was his. He would talk to Wilson. Wilson
right,
became his best friend.
right.
Well, my hands were so bloody from moving rocks. They got the idea for me to put my bloody handprint on that ball, whether it's the same ball or not. But there's my DNA on that ball because my hands were so cut up. They had me put my handprint on Wilson.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
that's another thing. If
wow,
somebody really to investigate, that blood on Wilson is my John Kennedy's blood.
wow, wow. So we're getting some feedback from the viewers, which I was going to break in with. So I think the movie you were referring to with the first story was 6 Days, 7 Nights. I think that is, and it was with Harrison Ford, if I'm not mistaken. And it was Heche, Heche. And I
Yeah,
think
and
she was when they took her away in the ambulance, I think she tried to get out or whatever. We saw a video where she's trying to climb off the thing, and then they kind of pushed her back down. So I think she was still alive and they took her
oh,
away.
yeah. See,
Yeah.
I don't watch the news. I heard about it probably off the radio or the internet, but I really liked her. I was sitting at a bar one time with her, and we were talking, and it was like, man, I'd really like to hook up with you. But that was years ago. I thought she was a beautiful woman. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I saw that movie. It was
by
actually,
her story,
yeah,
by the story I just heard for a few minutes, people just actresses just don't drive into somebody's house and garage on cocaine.
yeah. I feel
Sorry,
I feel like she was in a relationship with Ellen. I'm not sure if that's true because I don't care or follow that junk, but whatever. We know Ellen isn't of the light, you know what I mean? But interesting how it's all interrelated, you know?
oh yeah, it's all, it's a small world.
Yeah.
Wayne used to always tell me that it's a small world. You keep all these people as close as you can. I can't believe all the people I met. I really can't. I was taken around Hollywood, every 2 weeks I was hanging out with, I spent a lot of time with John Wayne. Somebody shared a John Wayne holding a kid up and said, "That's you, John." But I spent a lot of time with John Wayne. I think John Wayne killed a man for me one time that was literally, beating me. This man, threw me on the ground. They had me working as a child anyway. I was stacking firewood, but I wasn't stacking the firewood fast enough or something for this man. But I was a kid, and this man literally pushed me on the ground. I had a load of firewood. I looked over, and John Wayne was on his horse. And John Wayne saw this man do that. So John Wayne ran over on his horse and talked to a couple people. A whole group of people came over and kicked the living shit out of that man. Um, I don't know if he lived or not, but he got a good ass kicking for pushing me on the ground that
Wow.
day.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Why would again, you're a kid, so kids don't usually like to do anything unless they want to do what they want to do when they want to do it, right? And to actually push you down and all that in public is insane.
But I was, it was a movie set and everything, but I was a hard worker, and my mind was screwed up when I was a kid. My mind was gone. But I was a hard worker. If somebody told me what to do, I did it. I didn't want to get my ass beat. I didn't want to argue with them. I always did what they told me to do, whether it was wash a water trough out or fight with another kid. I was actually in John Wayne's movie. I think they used that part in their movie where I was wrestling and fighting with this other kid. I had some boots on, and they were used. Those boots I had on were given to me from the movie set, and I still had them on. And when I got back to the Quigleys, they took those boots off and threw them away because they didn't want anything connected to me and where I was on the movie set. It's crazy, but so many people I met, you know, um, and I don't remember names, but I could go on and on and on all the way to the music industry. But why they did that? When I came out 8 years ago, I figured I was going to get help. I figured Dolly Parton and Hank Jr. and Kid Rock and all these other people that I helped, um, I thought they would help me and bring my story out to the millions. It would only take a day if all the people I met, from the Tonight Show and everybody, it would only take a minute, but something changed. And I'm not able to contact any of these people or anything, but I really thought I would just come right out. I opened a Twitter account 7 years ago, 8 years ago, or something. But it was all rigged. All these Hollywood stars started joining me on Twitter. All of them. They were following me on Twitter. Dolly Parton, Hank Jr., Kid Rock, all these stars, Lady Gaga, you name it. I had hundreds of followers of movie stars and musicians and things. People in the entertainment industry. Hundreds of them. They just started following me. So I don't know if it was all fake, if our CIA, started making up all these accounts and putting them, to follow me. But it's not like I was following them. They started following me. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get my story out. And then I told Kid Rock one day, I said, I helped you um, a long time ago in your music video. And I said, you owe me. If I remember right, you owe me. He said, yeah, I still owe you. I'll pay you. And, but it was like a joke. He never came to pay me. And come to find out, he actually had a house in Bullhead City down by the river. I don't know if I'm supposed to advertise that Kid Rock has a house down by the river, but they made a music video at his house down by the river in Bullhead City, where I'm at now. But so many stories and so many people that I met. But why didn't that take off then? My only guess is they were all fake accounts just to mess with me. I really don't know.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of times, basically, they try to discredit you. They, of course, they waste your time and they want to argue with you, but they don't want your story out. So they want to treat you as someone that's making it up for fame or fortune or whatever reason. And clearly, this is not the case here with you. The whole, goal of getting this out is to get it out to help our society. All right. So just one story alone with this book, okay? Just one story, and look at all the information we've got about what's going on out there. And you're not the only person out there. There's more that want to come out, but they're afraid.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get some money. I really am, to start an organization and start helping get these people's story out,
Yeah,
organize it. Um, I'm going to need help doing it. But yeah, there's so many people that need their truth out of what happened
yeah,
to them
yeah.
and how organized crime in our government has screwed them over. The Hollywood, the music industry, and in my book, that kid that was Elvis's son. I only knew him a few days, but he brought me over to his house. He had a basement, and in this basement was every single Elvis record you can imagine. There was hundreds of them. They lined the walls. They were hanging off strings. There was Elvis memorabilia everywhere. And I knew Elvis as a child. I didn't say anything to this guy. I didn't tell him I'm John Kennedy Jr. because I was told I would be executed and killed if I ever told anybody. Well, I guess he told everybody he was Elvis's son.
Oof.
And that's big, big money. Well, I was invited to his basement, and he was kind of talking in circles here and there, and you could tell he was connected in organized crime somehow, even as a child. But he said, I'm Elvis's son, and they're going to be paying me a lot of money. Something about his mother hooking up with Elvis at one time. Um, and anyway, he totally believed, and I totally believed that he was Elvis's son. But he was expecting a huge payoff for being Elvis's son. And I believe they came in and took away the whole family. I never saw that man again. His house was sold to Richard Keel, Jaws on James Bond.
Right.
So they covered that up by putting a Hollywood movie star in his home. Um, I don't know. Maybe he's out there listening to us right now. That would be wonderful. That would be awesome if he survived all that. But he has never been credited for being Elvis's son. And, when you look at reality and how organized crime makes people disappear, yeah, I would hope that guy is still alive, but his story never got out. So was it hush money? Did he get a big, huge payoff, never to be seen again, living in the Caribbean? I really don't know. But I seriously believe they came in and eliminated the whole deal.
It sounds that way, because it was so sudden, especially, that story is in your book. And I was going to ask about it a while ago because you did interact with Elvis a few times, and he may or may not have known about the child or whatever, but or
Organized crime, you hear this stuff about every day on TikTok. I see Bob Joyce's Elvis. I don't know what the scam or the spin is around that stuff. I really, really don't. But I knew Elvis in the 70s, and Elvis was a pill popper. He was overweight. He was always sweating. He was addicted to probably, you imagine the pills. But organized crime had Elvis by the balls. They were telling Elvis what to buy, how to spend his money. They were always trying to sell Elvis something that wasn't worth anything for a lot of money. I was there with Elvis one time and he shot the TV. I was there when he did it. Organized crime members were there trying to shake him down for money. He was so pissed off. He was talking about, they were talking to him about his children that he had and the payments and every other thing. But he shot the freaking TV set. Then he went into the bathroom and locked the door. And they told me I had to go get him out. So I walked up to the door and I was like, hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but they want you to come out and this and that. But he didn't come out. They thought he was going to kill himself. But, that's my story with Elvis. I liked him when he wasn't pissed off because organized crime was trying to steal everything from him, just like they did Michael Jackson. And they do that with everybody. They steal it all.
Right.
It is huge. But that's my story with Elvis. He gave me a little trike ride out the front of his house one day. And I know him and Sonny and the others would get, it was a big thing to build a trike and have a trike. And then they would have the little trike races, like, around a little course. But he was a nice guy. I mean, I did go to Hawaii with him and he was too busy working on the movies. I talked with him a couple times in Hawaii. But it was all about power and control of him. They had him making movie after movie where he was so freaking tired of making movies, but it was all about his money. They wanted to keep him working, just like Pablo Picasso and these other things. They control it all. The artist industry. They had Pablo Picasso. Organized crime made him making as many artworks as he could because they knew they would be worth millions. So they're telling him, you make 5, 10 of these a day, every freaking day, because they knew he was making millions of dollars with his artwork. Totally controlled. It's all rigged. It's all controlled. And the American people are losing out to organized crime.
Many times I'll tell one of these stories or a snippet of a story and people will not believe me. All right. So again, if they just bother to read the book, that's the first step. That's the first thing you can do. Educate yourself and at least be open-minded to these stories, but then watch these videos, share them around, have conversations, and then look around at what's happening in our world, in our government, in our entertainment industry. None of that is real. The stories are not real. The identities of all of these people are being taken. They're often, basically the original is killed, if you will, and they have a double in there, a double, a clone, whatever we want to call it, doesn't matter. But you can see how they don't quite act or look the way they used to. Well,
and they totally use these people, not only for their money, but for their power. As an individual like me, I don't have the power to walk up to a famous person's home and have a chat with them. And most anybody doesn't. They're totally protected. They totally have security where the common person can't go chat. So they use them like they did Diddy. I don't know the whole Diddy story, just by a couple of videos I've seen on TikTok and stuff. But they use them to get away with their crimes. They're untouchable to the public. So they can get away. And I'm not going to mention any names because I know that some of these people were put on the spot, but they use these people to get away with child trafficking and kidnapping and what they do with children. They use that power of being untouchable to get away with these crimes. And it happens all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And another thing.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Another thing with the child trafficking, what I was told when I was young, I've seen a lot, but when a child is young, you got all these crime families. And the crime families are always trying to make more money, take over each other, and they kill to get at the top. John Gotti used the Russians to kill the top members to climb the ladder. But these families will switch children out. And the people at the top of the families put children in other families. So there's a lot of kidnapping, but the children go to another crime family. But we have DNA now. See, this was when I was young. So it would keep the peace. These crime families would not kill another family because they didn't know who they were killing. It could have been their own loved one or their own blood. And I was going to share a spin off of that, but it totally blanked my mind. So I guess God didn't want me to share that one. But it's huge.
Well,
It's
I
huge.
think that's what they do in the royal families as well, is they trade like we're told X is somebody's father or whatever, and that's not true. So they all have intertwined bloodlines.
Right. And to share my personal story, when I went to the FBI, what they did to me, and I believe it's in my book, they gave me a vasectomy on the kitchen counter. Um, Federal agents did that. They were actually having a party, one of their satanic parties. But federal agents came in, and I remember they came in from Santa Barbara, California, um, to Coarse Gold, California, where they gave me a vasectomy on the kitchen counter. So I could not have kids. They drugged me. They put me under for 2 weeks with an IV in my arm. Um, so I would be healed, but I got an infection. So when I woke up, my testicles were all infected and swollen. They had no choice but to give me penicillin, antibiotics, whatever. Dorothy Quigley actually gave me the antibiotics. But to tell the whole story, they wanted me to have a child that was their bloodline. So they fixed it where I could not have kids. They fixed it where I was married. They fixed it where my wife would have a child, but it was not my blood. It was actually their satanic cult blood. When that child was born, my ex-wife took that child back east on an airplane.
Right.
A week later, she came back east from Vermont. She came back to Coarse Gold, California with a different child. The child was not the same child, totally different child. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? There was attempts on my life after that. There was a bullet grazed my cheek while I was standing in the front yard. Several attempts on my life. I was even poisoned. I was poisoned where I wanted to kill my own self. My bones hurt from the inside out. I picked up my revolver. Well, I didn't. I thought about picking up my revolver, but somebody walked in, looked at me, and said, "Oh, you're still alive," and walked back out. They thought they poisoned me enough to kill me. God kept me alive. Several attempts. So I was in fear for my life. I went to the FBI, and they were no help because they were local. They were out of Fresno, California. I went to the FBI office in Fresno, California. They were no help.
Right.
So I drove to Sacramento, California. I didn't have any money, just enough money for gas money in my Camaro. I had an old Camaro. I drove to Sacramento, and I went to the FBI office in Sacramento. And they were like, "Well, why are you here?" I was like, "Because they're dirty in Fresno. They don't want to help me in Fresno." And the FBI guy was like, "Well, I know that guy in Fresno. He's not dirty." And I think they looked into my story a little bit, but the guy in Sacramento, the FBI guy in Sacramento said, "If they wanted you dead, you'd be dead. But go away. But go away."
Yeah. Yeah.
But he looked at me and he was dead serious. If they wanted you dead, you would be dead. Like they're more powerful than the FBI. And they are. Because I got no help for, any of that, what was done. Any of it. These people are switching kids around. And our FBI is like, "Go away, kid, go away."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would assume a lot of them are in the club. They're paid off. They're given that position, whatever it might be, and or they're afraid to make a move.
And it's real easy for our CIA or Secret Service to make a phone call to the FBI and say, "Hey, he's deep undercover," or whatever they tell him. And there's an investigation going on right now, and we have to let him go. And then nothing, it's more of the stall.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah, you would think they would be very interested in finding out what's going on, but no, because they're not honest. They're not truthful. And that's why getting this story out is so important. We
And
have
it's
to,
so hard. They don't want this story out.
yeah, Yeah.
Being the son, which is a huge, I don't know what you want to call it, but being the son of an assassinated president, what I've learned about how they didn't stop killing, and just all the guilt that is thrown on them, all the crimes that they have done, allowing it all to happen. Please share my story, please. I'm a great example to let them all. If my story gets out, they're not going to have rocks to crawl under. They're really not.
Yes. So if everyone can, again, share the book around, go to your local library, see if they'll order it so the general population can read the book, promote it any way you can, and, go back and read the first few videos, share them around, and, subscribe to John's YouTube channel. Just talk about the topic and see what other people think about it. Get it out there because people need to open their eyes to what's really happening out there. So, yeah. Feels like we're at a good point to wrap up. I know, John, we had talked about you taking a motorcycle ride out east, and you'll be planning that and letting everyone know. So you'll see your supporters there as well, or along the route.
Yeah, I hope that it really gets out to the world.
Yeah.
Um, and big shout out to King Smarty too.
Yeah.
Big shout, he's been a wonderful supporter. Um, awesome brother, and he gave me this for my post-traumatic stress disorder, and just him sending that to me and giving it to me and saying, "Hey, it'll help you."
Yeah.
It's a big help. It really is.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, as you know, I'm loyal to Smarty, and I wear all of his jewelry as well. And I have his products all over my house. That's some of his stuff in back of me. And it raises the vibration. So health, healing, protection, frequencies are all over my house, my physical body, and those that I interact with. So it works. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being
Oh,
brave enough, for
thank
hanging
you.
in there and bringing this out to the public. And for us guys that are watching or listening, please share it around to help. Like, many hands make light work, as my mom would say. But again, we need to awaken the general public to the corruption and the illegal activities and the horrific things that are going out there behind the scenes that we don't even know about. So,
I
yeah.
thank you, Sue. With
Thank you
all my
so much.
heart, I appreciate you. Um, uh, we have to get this truth out if we want to make a change. We
Totally.
must. And I'm
Totally.
asking everybody to use me as an example. Throw me out to the wolves in my story.
Yeah.
And we can change. We can fix things. We really can.
Right. Thank you again for all your courage in bringing this story.